Hospitality Marketing Live show number 572. I am your host, Lon Gray. Thank you so much for joining us in this 3/4 of the way through July of this year. How fast everything is going, and in addition to the heat and weather concerns and changes of everything that always influence how and what we do. So today, I want to jump right at a particular modality that's really taken off that I don't think gets enough attention as to its value proposition, and more importantly, how it has changed the resources that are available for it. That has changed so much in recent months, if actually weeks in some ways. Some of these tools are just out on the market coming through. So let me first refer to the topic best that identifies what we're going to speak to, and that is today's market and Compset monitoring. We're so caught with knowing what we're doing, at least you should be, as to placement, SEO optimization, content development, a hierarchy as to representation of your product in market, the demand to your market, the awareness that you represent for that demand to your market. All of those things should be ever present and in front of mind for your marketing strategy, not the atypical historical set ad campaigns and let them run, and then just regurgitate old campaigns with lipstick on them as to this year's offer compared to the identical look and use of it from last year with last year's offer. Those days should be behind you. You should not be doing those kind of static things, checking a box saying I'm doing online marketing or digital marketing. You need to be ever present in all the variations that are available to you and all the ways that you represent yourself. That should be a baseline, block and tackle. This discussion today is about growing your awareness beyond your knowledge of your own efforts and your own campaigns and your own perceived value in market. And that comes up with some very interesting tools that AI has certainly helped in its development as to what you can do now and tools that you can use, but just creative approaches of looking at and seeing. I come back from the days where you used to do reader board services that would run out and go to your competitors and look at what their in-lobby signage had for the day of who was in-house with them. And they would then report back to you as to what who they had accounts with and so forth, for you to be able to put that into your sales strategy and see how you could do to take that business away from your competitors back from then. And then the star reports back in the day were probably the one and only way of knowing how you compared yourself to everybody in your market. A lot of that was selectively chosen by your Compset that you wanted to be compared to, but it was one of the only litmus tests that you had as to where your place was and what your market was doing and how they were doing it. Obviously, there was networks of calling around and seeing what other people were doing, but these were all very rate-centric. It was about rate and or classification of sales opportunities for group businesses. Beyond that, there was very little that you knew what your competitor was doing until it was done. And that usually came from stumbling across it or actively chasing it down in some form of looking at a local magazine, local chamber of commerce listing, any billboards that were in your market, any advertisement in magazines or anything that you would keep a hand on to see how well your competitors represented themselves. That was pretty much the extent of market research as to what your Compset was doing, let alone anything outside of your immediate market. Sometimes you would marvel at some large national campaigns as to how creative they were, innovative they were, or how they tackled a new opportunity or offering, and you tried to see how you could translate into localizing that. But that's historically how market analysis and Compset monitoring happened. The only other time you really directly touched this was when you're doing SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, where every year you would dust off the perennial market manual, market plan of the year, and you would do an update to the SWOT analysis. And for those that have done them in times past in comparison to how they are now, it used to be your pretty much standard amount of total inventory your comp had. You had to choose who it was your comp based upon who you lost business to over the course of time and how busy they were in contrast to you. A lot of that came from the STAR report. And then active awareness of all the hotels in your market. You would be aware of any new inventory to market, old inventory. That would change your SWOT analysis as to how much of a threat they created, opportunities you had in contrast to them based on what they built versus what you already existed for. And that was kept kind of as a milestone in contrast to how you looked at what your comp set was doing as you looked at it from your SWOT analysis. Okay, we know they only have X number of rooms to sell or types of rooms to sell. They only have X amount of common space. They have X amount of parking capabilities or location flexibility, what have you. It was always what you put the filter of your perspective of what they were doing through. And so much has changed since those days. None of that has gone away, say, versus the modalities and some of the mediums. But how you can better understand what your competitors are doing, what your market is doing, and what nationally can be done that you can adopt and translate it into a more useful localized initiative is much more robust. We've talked about RPAs, robotic programming, which would allow you to mechanically set up a progress of having an automation go and do something that you used to do. Look at this website, look at that site, what have you. There is tools now that you can go to all of the places that you want to monitor specials from your competitors in market and maybe out of market, and have it watch those pages. And anytime they change, it sends you a notification saying, hey, XYZ property specials page now has this change, and this is the change, the new promotion, and this change is off, this is the old promotion, whatever it is. So you had a hand on the pulse as to what your competitors were putting out to market. And that was at an entry level of awareness. I mean, yes, you could ritually every day or whatever frequency you found applicable, go look at their pages and go see what specials and offers are up there. A lot of times, if it wasn't put in the market strategy, you wouldn't know that there was special codes being offered in certain campaigns and so forth. So you had the dark spot as to, yes, I can see what they're putting in the market strategy publicly, but what are the offers they're creating for narrowcasted audiences, tailored audiences, their email campaigns and so forth. So there is a tool, incredibly helpful, that will let you sign up for whatever it is that they let you sign up for. And it will monitor everything that gets sent out by them and the chain of how it connects. So you see their introduction email, the confirmation emails if they send it, the awareness of how often and what they send you to keep that in relationship engagement with you. If there's a progression of ads that come from the emails as to how you selectively target what you're interested in. Yes, the old school was you sign up with an innocuous email so they didn't know it was you to see what it is that they offered, but that meant you having to be aware of their email sends all the time and taking the time to watch it. Here, the system would actually let you know when and if something happened and what was offered. So you would be notified of it. So rather than having to take the time scheduled to go look, the system would let you know that something was worth looking for or at. There's also the understanding that your comp is no longer just the hotel across your street or the property within your market. A lot of times, the consideration phase, the upper funnel discovery of things, you're being compared or discovered in the same process of other variables that the user is looking to decide from. Whether they come to your market in comparison to another market, why is those comparisons being drawn? Is it because you are in a similarity? Are you in contrast? All of these things should be a part of your knowledge as to your place in the world with your product, with your hotel. How do people discover you is just as important as why would they want to. There are other tools out in the world now that allow you to cultivate what's being done in your market, like YouTube, in the sense that you can look at what is happening production-wise, what videos are being made, what influencers are referring to, not to your product in particular. You'd be more aware of that than just the discovery aspect that I'm talking about. But other places where somebody might have come up with a means of trying to sell your destination. And because you aren't the target audience, you wouldn't have seen that happened. And you would stumble upon it later and go, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this channel existed. And here it is talking about all the cool things to do in my market. And I should be advertising or making sure that they refer to me or make sure my content is aware to the producer of the content so that they can include it. these stumbled upon discoveries are now more definable by having platforms that will actually go look, find, and keep you aware of what's being said about your market. Most importantly, also you. There are tools that will always monitor any mentions and references to your product on a variety of anything from Reddits to online blogs to um, Facebook, social, all the chat. They will keep a track of what anytime you're in reference to